Pour cleaning lady blew bubbles to calm a boy unaware that the millionaire CEO was watching and... Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into today's story. The clatter of cleaning supplies echoed through the quiet hallway as Sarah wiped down the counter. The hotel she worked at was one of the most luxurious in the city, a place where wealthy guests dined in crystal chandeliers, and everything shone with perfection. But Sarah didn't belong to this world. She was a simple cleaning lady, in a worn-out uniform, the hem of her skirt a little frayed from years of use. Her shoes, though comfortable, had seen better days, and her hands were rough from scrubbing the endless floors of the hotel. It was late afternoon, and the bustling of the morning guests had slowed down. As she turned the corner, Sarah noticed a young boy sitting alone by the fountain in the grand lobby, his face crumpled with tears. He looked about 6 or 7 years old, wearing a little suit that didn't seem to fit right. She felt a tug at her heart, the instinct to comfort him rising. Her shift had just started, but she couldn't ignore the boy's sadness. Gently, she approached him, her worn shoes softly tapping on the marble floor. "Hey, sweetie, are you okay?" she asked, kneeling down beside him. The boy looked up, his face wet with tears. He sniffled but didn't answer. Sarah smiled softly and, without thinking, took a deep breath. "I have an idea," she said. She pulled a small bottle of bubble solution from her cleaning cart and, with a quick blow, let a stream of bubbles float into the air. The boy's eyes followed the delicate bubbles as they floated, catching the light from the chandeliers above. A small smile tugged at the corners of his lips. It wasn't much, but it seemed to work. Sarah continued to blow bubbles, each one bigger than the last, until the boy's tears stopped. His small hands reached out, trying to catch one. Sarah laughed softly, the sound of the boy's giggles lifting her spirits. For a moment, it was as if the world outside the hotel didn't matter. It was just her, the boy, and the bubbles. She didn't know who he was, and it didn't matter. She was just trying to bring him some comfort, something small and simple to brighten his day. What she didn't realize, however, was that a pair of eyes was watching them from across the lobby. Liam Parker, the CEO of the hotel's parent company, stood by the grand staircase, observing the scene. He had just arrived for a meeting and had been about to head to his office when the sight of the cleaning lady and the boy caught his attention. There was something about the way she was interacting with the child, so gentle, so unassuming, that made him pause. He watched for a moment longer, intrigued by her kindness. He had built his empire from the ground up, learning that in his world, appearances meant everything. But the woman in front of him, with her simple gestures and genuine compassion, seemed to be something entirely different. She had no idea who he was, yet here she was, giving her all to help a child she didn't know. It was a kind of sincerity he hadn't encountered in a long time. Little did she know, her small act of kindness had already caught the attention of someone who would soon change her life forever. As Sarah finished cleaning the fountain area, the boy, now smiling, stood up and wiped his eyes. He looked up at her with a small, shy grin. "Thank you," he whispered, still a little embarrassed by his earlier tears. Sarah smiled warmly and ruffled his hair, feeling a sense of satisfaction in the small act of kindness she had shared. "You're welcome, sweetheart," she replied softly, her voice gentle but firm. "Sometimes a little fun is all we need to feel better." The boy nodded, his smile growing a little wider. "I have to go now," he said, turning to walk toward the grand entrance of the hotel. Sarah watched him leave, a sense of warmth spreading through her chest. It felt good to have made a difference, even in such a small way. Little did she know that this brief moment would mark the beginning of a much bigger journey. As the boy disappeared into the crowd, Sarah returned to her cleaning cart, pushing it down the hallway. She was unaware of the man standing by the reception desk, silently observing her every move. Liam Parker, the CEO of the hotel chain, had been watching from the shadows. He hadn't expected to witness something so genuine, so pure, in the midst of the polished luxury of the hotel. His life had always been about deals, high-stakes negotiations, and managing people who treated everything as a transaction. But what he had just seen was nothing like that. The cleaning lady, Sarah, had shown nothing but kindness to a child who was clearly troubled. She didn't know who he was, nor did she seem to care. That was what intrigued him the most. The people in his world were all driven by ambition, by status. But Sarah, in her simple uniform, had shown something he hadn't seen in years: compassion without expectation. He felt a strange pull, something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Curiosity began to settle in his chest. Who was she? Why did she care so much for a child she didn't know? His mind raced as he wondered if she was just a good-hearted person or if there was something more to her. Sarah didn't notice Liam following her down the hallway as she continued with her duties, completely oblivious to the fact that the CEO of the hotel chain was watching her. She had no idea that this chance encounter would lead to something that would change her life forever. Liam wasn't the kind of man to act on impulse, but something about Sarah's simplicity and warmth caught him off guard. He felt compelled to approach her, but he didn't know how to begin. His life had been dominated by calculated actions, by managing every detail. This, however, was different. This was human. As Sarah reached the elevator, she turned to check her watch. It was almost time for her break. She had a few minutes to herself before getting back to the endless routine of cleaning. But what she didn't know was that the moment she stepped into that elevator, her life was about to take an unexpected turn. Liam, still standing by the grand staircase, finally made a decision. He approached the receptionist, a determined look in his eyes. "I need to speak with the cleaning staff," he said, his voice firm, but with an underlying curiosity. The receptionist blinked, unsure of why the CEO would want to speak to someone like Sarah, but she didn't question him. "Certainly, Mr. Parker," she replied. "I'll arrange it." The wheels of fate had been set in motion, and Sarah's simple act of kindness had already caught the attention of the right person. She would soon find herself face to face with the man who would offer her a chance to change her life. Little did she know, her actions had already spoken louder than words, and Liam Parker was about to discover that sometimes, the most genuine connections are the ones that start with a simple, unexpected moment. The next day, as Sarah was finishing her shift, she was still unaware of the chain of events that had been set in motion. She wiped down the last of the tables in the grand lobby, exhausted but satisfied with the work she had done. The guests had all left, and the quiet of the hotel felt strangely peaceful. Sarah took a deep breath and gathered her cleaning supplies. As she walked toward the back of the building, she thought about the boy she had helped yesterday. His smile still lingered in her mind, a reminder of the simple kindness that had made a difference. Little did she know, she was about to be confronted with something far beyond her usual routine. As she passed the receptionist's desk, the young woman at the counter waved at her. "Sarah, Mr. Parker would like to see you," the receptionist said, her voice a little too bright. Sarah froze for a moment, her heart skipping a beat. "Mr. Parker?" she asked, feeling a bit taken aback. "The CEO of the hotel," the receptionist added quickly, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Sarah blinked in disbelief. She had never imagined that someone as important as Mr. Parker would want to speak to her, let alone acknowledge her existence. "Oh, okay," she stammered, still unsure of what was happening. The receptionist motioned toward the elevator, indicating that Mr. Parker was waiting for her. Sarah made her way to the elevator, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt out of place in her worn-out uniform, but the receptionist's words echoed in her mind. The CEO? Why would he want to see her? As the elevator ascended to the top floor, Sarah tried to calm her nerves. She had no idea what was about to happen, but she knew that this meeting was going to change everything. When the elevator doors opened, Sarah was greeted by a tall, handsome man in a tailored suit. He looked up from the papers he was reading, and their eyes met for the first time. Liam Parker stood in front of her, his expression both professional and warm. "Sarah, it's nice to finally meet you," he said, extending his hand. "Mr. Parker," she replied, shaking his hand cautiously. "Please, come in." Liam gestured toward a large conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. "I've been meaning to thank you for what you did yesterday." Sarah blinked in surprise, her mind racing. "Thank me?" she asked, confused. "For the boy," Liam clarified, his tone softening. "I saw how you took the time to make him feel better. It wasn't just an act of kindness, it was something more. You don't see that kind of sincerity often in my world." Sarah felt her cheeks flush. She hadn't realized that anyone had been watching, let alone the CEO of the entire hotel chain. "I was just trying to help," she said quietly, unsure of how to respond. Liam smiled, his eyes warm. "That's what makes it so remarkable. You did something simple, yet it made a big difference." There was a brief pause before Liam continued, his voice becoming more serious. "I wanted to offer you an opportunity. I think you have potential, and I'd like to see how we can work together." Sarah was speechless. She had no idea what he was talking about. "What do you mean?" she finally asked, her voice trembling. Liam leaned forward slightly, his gaze steady. "I'm offering you a chance to join a project that's close to my heart. It's a new initiative we're starting for the local community. I believe you could bring something unique to the table. Your heart, your ability to connect with people, it's rare in my world." Sarah's mind was spinning. This was the kind of opportunity she had only dreamed about. But at the same time, she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. "I don't know," she whispered, her doubts creeping in. "I'm just a cleaning lady. I don't have any special skills or qualifications." Liam's gaze softened. "You don't need special qualifications to do good work, Sarah. Sometimes, the most important thing is having the right heart. And you've shown that in spades." The weight of his words hung in the air, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt seen. She didn't know if she was ready for such a big change, but she knew one thing for sure. Her life was about to take a turn she never expected. The following week, Sarah found herself walking through the grand lobby of the hotel once again, but this time it felt different. She had been offered the opportunity to join Liam Parker's community initiative, a chance to step into a world far beyond her cleaning duties. She had been hesitant at first, unsure if she was truly ready for such a big change. But as the days passed, the idea started to grow on her. It wasn't just about the money or the job itself. It was about what this opportunity represented. It was about her, someone who had spent so long feeling invisible, finally being seen. Her heart raced as she made her way to the conference room where Liam had asked her to meet. She had never imagined that something as small as helping a child could lead to such a life-changing moment. When she arrived, Liam was already there, standing by the window, looking out over the city skyline. He turned when he heard her footsteps, offering her a warm smile that made her feel a little more at ease. "Sarah," he said, his voice calm but filled with sincerity. "I'm glad you could make it." She smiled nervously, unsure of what to say. "Thank you for this opportunity," she replied, her voice soft. I don't really know what to expect." Liam's expression softened. "There's no need to be nervous. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for someone with heart, someone who cares." He paused, taking a step closer. "You've already shown that, and that's more important than any resume." Sarah felt her chest tighten with a mixture of excitement and fear. She had spent so long in the shadows, just trying to get by, that the idea of stepping into the light felt both thrilling and overwhelming. "I don't know if I'm the right person for this," she confessed, her doubts creeping in again. "I'm just a cleaning lady. I've never done anything like this before." Liam looked at her with a steadiness that calmed her nerves. "You're exactly the kind of person we need. You understand people. You've seen the world from a perspective that most of us can't even imagine." He paused, then added, "Sometimes, the best leaders come from the most unexpected places." Sarah felt a wave of warmth spread through her chest at his words. She had never thought of herself as a leader, but maybe, just maybe, she could be. As they sat down to discuss the project further, Sarah's mind raced with ideas. The initiative Liam was working on aimed to create more opportunities for the local community, to provide resources for families struggling to make ends meet. It wasn't just about charity, it was about empowerment. The more Liam spoke, the more Sarah realized that this was a chance not just for her, but for others like her. This was the kind of work she had always dreamed of, even if she had never known how to reach it. After the meeting, Liam asked her to meet some of the other people who were involved in the project. As they walked through the hotel, Sarah couldn't help but feel a little out of place among the sleek, polished walls and high-end decor. But when they reached the community center, she felt an immediate connection. The room was filled with people who were just like her, ordinary men and women trying to make a difference in their own way. Sarah felt her heart swell with pride as she realized that, for the first time in a long time, she was part of something bigger than herself. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah threw herself into the work, learning more about the project and how she could contribute. She started meeting with local families, listening to their stories, and helping them access the resources they needed. It was hard work, but it felt meaningful in a way she had never experienced before. And as she worked alongside Liam and the others, she began to see him in a new light. He was still the powerful CEO, but he was also compassionate, driven by a deep desire to make a positive impact on the world. He didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. Slowly, Sarah's doubts began to fade. She wasn't just a cleaning lady anymore. She was someone who was making a difference. And as she looked around at the people she was helping, she realized that the life she had once thought was out of reach was now within her grasp. Over the next few weeks, Sarah found herself growing more and more comfortable in her new role. The initial nerves and doubts she had felt slowly faded away as she gained confidence in her work. She was no longer just a cleaning lady at the hotel. She was now a vital part of Liam's community project, meeting with families, helping to provide resources, and truly making a difference. She found joy in helping others, and with each success, her belief in herself grew. Liam continued to support her every step of the way, and his guidance, both professional and personal, became something she looked forward to. Despite their differences in status, Sarah felt that Liam treated her as an equal, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. One afternoon, as they sat together discussing the progress of the project, Sarah looked at Liam and found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. She had never expected that someone like him, someone so powerful and influential, would care so deeply about the same things she did. It made her think, maybe there was more to life than just surviving. Maybe there was room for something greater. Liam, she began, her voice soft but steady. I never thought I could be part of something like this. I've always just been trying to make ends meet, doing what I can to get by. But this feels different. I feel like I'm actually contributing. Liam turned to her, his eyes reflecting understanding. Sarah, you're doing more than contributing. You're changing lives, including your own. Sometimes, the smallest actions have the biggest impact, and that's what you've done. His words were simple, but they resonated deeply within her. As she sat there, in the quiet office with the city skyline stretching out behind him, Sarah realized how far she had come. She wasn't just helping others. She was building a future for herself, something she had never thought possible. But despite the growth and the progress, a part of her still held back. Sarah couldn't ignore the fact that Liam, the man who had given her this opportunity, was someone she was beginning to admire in more ways than one. She had tried to keep things professional, focusing solely on the work at hand, but as the days went by, her feelings for him began to shift. There was a warmth in his smile, a kindness in his actions, that drew her in. He wasn't just the CEO of a major company. He was a man who cared deeply for the people around him. But Sarah was hesitant. She had always kept her emotions in check, always held back from letting anyone too close. She had spent years protecting herself from disappointment and hurt, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to let someone into her heart. One evening, as they wrapped up a meeting at the community center, Liam turned to her with a thoughtful expression. Sarah, he said, his voice quieter than usual, I've been thinking about this project and how much you've grown. You've changed everything for the better. You've helped people find hope again. Sarah smiled, grateful for his words, but also feeling a little uneasy. Thank you, Liam. It means a lot to me, more than you know, she replied, her voice softening. There was a pause, and then Liam's eyes met hers, his gaze intense yet gentle. I think we're making a real difference here, but I also think there's more to it. I'd like to see where this could go, where you could go. His words hung in the air, and Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She didn't know what to say, didn't know if she was ready to open herself up like that. But at that moment, she realized that she had already come so far. She had already begun to change, to believe in herself, and in the possibilities of a future she never imagined. Maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take the next step. And with Liam standing before her, offering not just a professional opportunity, but something more, she realized that the chance to change her life, to find love, was right in front of her. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of new challenges and growth for Sarah. She continued to work alongside Liam on the community project, but things began to shift. Their professional relationship, built on mutual respect and admiration, slowly started to evolve into something more personal. Liam's support was unwavering. And with each passing day, Sarah felt herself growing more confident, not just in her work, but in herself. She began to see her worth in a way she never had before. It was during a meeting one afternoon, while they discussed the next phase of their project, that Sarah realized just how much Liam had come to mean to her. They were sitting together in the small office at the community center, a stack of files between them. Liam was outlining a plan for the next month's outreach, but Sarah couldn't focus on the work. She found herself distracted by the way he spoke, his voice calm but firm, his eyes bright with purpose, and the way he made her feel. He wasn't just a CEO or a mentor. He was someone who saw her, truly saw her, for who she was. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like she wasn't just someone trying to make it through life. She was someone with potential, someone who mattered. Sarah, Liam said, looking up from the papers in front of him, his gaze meeting hers. We've come a long way with this project, and I know we're only getting started. But I want you to know that I couldn't have done this without you. You've been incredible. Sarah smiled, a mix of pride and warmth filling her chest. Thank you, Liam. That means a lot to me, she said, trying to keep her voice steady, though she could feel her heart beating a little faster. There was something about his words, something in the way he looked at her, that made her realize how much more they had shared than just a professional bond. Liam leaned back in his chair, his expression softening. I mean it. You've brought a new perspective to this project, and I think you've helped me see things differently too. I appreciate that more than you know. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her as his words sank in. She had always been afraid of being too much, too emotional, too ambitious. But Liam made her feel like it was okay to be all those things. He made her feel seen, valued. And that was something she had never experienced before. There was a long pause before Sarah spoke again, her voice quieter now, more vulnerable. Liam, she began, taking a deep breath. I don't know what to say. Everything, it's more than I ever imagined. He reached across the table, his hand brushing lightly against hers. You don't have to say anything. I think we both know what this is about. It's not just about the project anymore, is it? His words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Sarah wasn't sure how to respond. She had tried to keep her feelings in check, tried to focus on the work, but the connection between them was undeniable. It wasn't just professional anymore, it was personal. And as much as Sarah wanted to push those feelings aside, she couldn't ignore them any longer. She looked at Liam, her heart pounding in her chest, and realized that she had been holding on to something she didn't need to hold back. She was ready to take the next step. No, she finally whispered, her voice trembling slightly. It's not just about the project. Liam smiled softly, his eyes warm with understanding. I'm glad you said that, he said, his voice low, because I've been feeling the same way. The silence that followed was filled with a quiet understanding between them. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about two people who had come from different worlds, finding something real and genuine in each other. And in that moment, Sarah knew that her life had changed in ways she couldn't have imagined just a few months ago. What had started as a simple act of kindness, blowing bubbles for a sad boy, had turned into something that had the potential to change her world completely. Sarah walked into the office early the next morning, her mind swirling with thoughts from the previous evening. The conversation with Liam, the unspoken understanding, had shifted something inside her. She had never imagined that one small act of kindness could lead her here, to a place where her dreams were becoming a reality. But with it came a mix of emotions she hadn't expected: fear, doubt, and the weight of the unknown. As she sat down at her desk, her fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure of what to do next. She had been given an opportunity that most people only dream of, but it felt like so much responsibility. She was still the same Sarah, the cleaning lady, who had struggled her whole life to make ends meet. Was she truly ready to embrace this new chapter, or was it just a fleeting moment of luck? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. Liam entered, his usual calm demeanor masking the underlying tension in his eyes. Sarah, can we talk? He asked, his voice soft but firm. She nodded, pushing aside the uncertainty that had been clouding her mind. Of course, she replied, her heart racing. As Liam took a seat across from her, his gaze seemed to soften. I know things have been moving fast, but I wanted to check in. How are you feeling about everything? He asked, his tone genuine. Sarah hesitated. She had spent so much time in survival mode, just getting through each day, that she wasn't sure how to answer. I'm grateful for everything, Liam, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. But it's all so overwhelming. I don't want to mess this up. Liam smiled, leaning forward slightly. Sarah, you're not here by accident. You've earned every bit of this. You've shown more heart and resilience than most people I know. His words made her heart swell with warmth, but they also brought a wave of doubt. But what if I'm not enough? What if I can't live up to what everyone expects of me? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Liam's expression softened, and he reached across the desk, gently placing his hand over hers. You are enough, Sarah, he said, his voice full of conviction. You don't need to live up to anyone's expectations except your own. This isn't about being perfect. It's about making a difference, and you've already done that. His words were simple, yet they resonated deeply within her. For so long, Sarah had been afraid to show her true self, fearing rejection and failure. But here, with Liam, it felt like she didn't have to be afraid anymore. Thank you, she whispered, a tear slipping down her cheek. Liam's eyes softened as he wiped the tear away gently. You've got this, he said quietly, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. The words hung in the air between them, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt a sense of peace settle over her. The doubts, the fears, they were still there, but they no longer held the power they once had. She had found something far greater than just a job or an opportunity. She had found her worth, and with it, a chance to build a future she never thought possible. As she left the office that afternoon, Sarah's steps felt lighter. The world outside still seemed daunting, but for the first time, she felt like she could face it. She wasn't alone in this anymore. And no matter what came next, she knew she was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. Sarah stood at the community center, looking out the window at the city that had once seemed so daunting, now feeling full of possibility. It had been several weeks since Liam's words had changed everything for her. She had become more confident in her role, helping families, creating new opportunities, and feeling like she was truly making a difference. But there was something more happening. Her feelings for Liam had only grown deeper. What had started as admiration for his vision and kindness had blossomed into something stronger. She couldn't deny it anymore. She was falling for him. The thought both excited and terrified her. Was she ready for this? Was she ready to let someone in, to trust that her happiness could be something more than just fleeting? But as the days passed, it became clearer to her that the connection they shared was real. The way he cared for her, not just as a colleague but as a person, was something Sarah had never experienced. She wasn't used to someone seeing her the way Liam did. He saw her potential, her worth. It made her question her own fears and doubts, the ones that had held her back for so long. One evening, after another successful event at the center, Liam approached her with a thoughtful expression. The soft glow of the setting sun filtered through the windows behind him, casting a warm light on his face. Sarah, he began, his voice quiet but sincere. I've been thinking about what you've brought to this project, to the people here. You've done so much more than I could have hoped for. I can't help but think that this isn't just about the work we're doing together. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She knew where this was going, and the uncertainty that had lingered in her chest suddenly felt heavier. Liam, I don't know what to say, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I've never felt like this before, but I'm scared. I'm scared of letting myself believe that something good could really happen to me. Liam smiled gently, stepping closer to her. You don't have to be afraid, he said, his hand lightly brushing hers. You've already made such an impact, Sarah. And I believe in you, more than you know. I believe in us. His words, filled with warmth and sincerity, broke through the walls Sarah had built around herself. She had been so focused on survival, on getting through each day, that she had forgotten how to truly live. But in that moment, she realized that she had found something worth living for. It wasn't just the project or the success. It was the connection they shared, the quiet understanding that had grown between them over time. I've always been afraid of letting someone in, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. But I think I'm ready to take that step. With you. Liam's eyes softened, and he gently took her hand, his touch reassuring. You don't have to do it alone, Sarah. I'm here. Always. As they stood there, the weight of the moment pressing in, Sarah knew that her life had changed in ways she couldn't have imagined. The fears she had held on to for so long were beginning to fade, replaced by a newfound sense of hope and possibility. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it would be worth it. Together, they could face whatever came their way. As they walked out of the community center hand in hand, the sun setting behind them, Sarah couldn't help but smile. She had found something real, something lasting. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Sarah stood at the front of the community center, her heart racing as she looked out over the room, filled with smiling faces. It was the opening night of the art exhibit she had helped organize, and for the first time, she felt truly proud of what she had accomplished. The space was filled with vibrant paintings, photographs, and sculptures created by local artists, many of them people she had met through the community initiative. This project, once just a fleeting idea, had grown into something real, something powerful, and Sarah had been at the heart of it. As she walked through the gallery, she couldn't help but smile at the transformation in herself. She had gone from a cleaning lady, struggling to get by, to someone who had made a lasting impact on her community. The journey hadn't been easy, but every step had been worth it. The confidence she had gained, the relationships she had built, and the change she had helped bring about, all of it had come from a single, simple act of kindness, blowing bubbles for a sad boy. She thought back to that moment in the hotel lobby when she had helped him, not knowing that it would lead to this. She had no idea that one small act could lead to such a life-changing opportunity. As Sarah continued to walk through the exhibit, her thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. "Sarah, you've done it," Liam said, standing beside her. His presence was reassuring, and his smile radiated pride. "This is all you." She turned to look at him, feeling the warmth of his support. He had been there for her every step of the way, encouraging her to believe in herself when she couldn't. He had seen her potential before she ever could, and now, as they stood together in the gallery, Sarah realized just how far they had come. "We've done it," she replied softly, her voice filled with emotion. "Together." Liam smiled, his eyes softening. "You've made all the difference, Sarah. You've changed this community, and you've changed your own life in the process." Sarah felt a lump form in her throat as she looked at him. She had always been afraid of change, afraid of stepping out of her comfort zone. But now, standing beside Liam, she felt more alive than ever. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart full. "For everything." Liam took her hand gently, his touch warm and steady. "You don't need to thank me, Sarah. I'm just glad I got to be a part of your journey." They stood there for a moment, silently appreciating the significance of the night. It wasn't just about the art on the walls or the success of the event. It was about the journey they had taken together. And it was about the future they could now build, side by side. As the night went on, Sarah found herself surrounded by the people whose lives she had touched. The artists, the families, the volunteers, all of them had been a part of this transformation. She realized that her life had become intertwined with theirs, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment in knowing that her actions had made a real difference. As the last guests began to leave, Liam walked over to Sarah with a small, carefully wrapped box. "For you," he said, handing it to her. She looked at him, puzzled, but took the box in her hands. When she opened it, she found a simple necklace, a silver pendant in the shape of a heart. "It's a symbol of everything you've accomplished," Liam said, his voice gentle, "and everything you will continue to accomplish." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she looked at him, touched by the gesture. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I don't know if I deserve this." Liam smiled, his gaze unwavering. "You deserve it more than anyone I know." As the night came to a close and Sarah stood in the empty gallery, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had found something she never expected, a purpose, a community, and most of all, love. It had all started with one small act of kindness, and now, she was standing on the edge of a new beginning. A beginning she could face with confidence, knowing that the best was yet to come.